Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 146, written by Natural Charity6920, an inside joke to pass closure from beyond. A week and a half ago, one of my best friends died. We had been friends ever since we were 11. The entire year before, he kept making eerie statements saying he was going to die. Every day just seemed to get harder for him. Well, it's been 20 years since we met, and I'm not sure if you remember old Greg. When we were in middle school about 15 years ago, we were the first kids to see it. This crap was freaking hilarious. It became a massive inside joke between us and the whole school. It was a very significant inside joke. Flash forward, we're 28 years old. Everyone was going crazy from the lockdown. My wife dreaded her hair, poorly, and tried to dye it green. The whole entire thing didn't go well, and we all had good humor about it and had a lot of fun. My buddy started making these hilarious old Greg references about her hair. And of course the inside joke was raging between us again the whole of last year. He unfortunately didn't wake up last week. He was a partier who wanted to die young. I was a wreck for a few days. Then we piled in the car and drove to his visitation, where we had to see the body. Seeing your dead best friend has a way of messing with your head. We weren't gone for 15 minutes from visitation on the highway. I was crying, getting a flood of all our memories. I look up from my phone and my contacts are kind of foggy. The license plate in front of us says something, but it's too far in front of us. I have this feeling overcome me though, like I have to read it. I tell my wife to step on it. I have got to see what it says. The license plate said, Old Greg. And I felt him comfort me, or like he was trying to tell me that stupid joke again. At this point, we were riding these people in front of our cars as they started to get mad and swerving. Just reminded me more of him because he was an asshole. It might be a stupid coincidence. I'm not a religious man. I did take a picture of the license plate and blew a lot of people who knew him away. Case notes, file number 146. May your friend rest in peace. You understood who he was, his character. That wouldn't numb the pain of losing him, and yet, there he is, providing you with the closure you desperately needed through a simple medium of an inside joke. I think he'll be okay, and so will you. Case file number 147, written by Cillian Drome. In the closet, a ghost, demanding bravery utmost. When I was a child, maybe 6th or 7th grade, I slept in a room with no curtains. The light from across the street cast the shadow of the tree in our front yard across the walls. When fall came and there were no leaves, the skeleton of that tree made a vein-like pattern on the wall that swayed and wiggled when the wind blew. I always slept with the closet door open. It had a sliding door, and there was enough room inside to walk into it on one side of the hanging coats and shirts. One night, the shadows from the tree were cast right across the closet door. It was dark inside the closet, but I could still make out what I thought was the shape of some coats hanging there. As I stared into the dark at the opening to the closet, I began to feel an eerie sense of something else being in the room. The human-sized shape inside the closet began to slowly move forwards towards the closet door. I thought this must be a trick of the light. The shadows were from the tree, perhaps. The longer I watched, the closer it got to the door. I felt a strange tension building up inside me, a fear that maybe it wasn't the shadows after all. I tried to examine it as best as I could to see if I could tell the difference. It looked like a Native American man, shirtless, animal hide around the waist, and long straight black hair. I even thought I could make out a headband, but it was blurry. It was dark, and you know how things are often unclear in the dark. I remembered hearing once about how Indian boys had to pass a coming-of-age test to move from childhood to manhood, to become a full member of the tribe. This test was simple. The boy would climb to the top of the tree when the wind was blowing and had to hang on it for a time without climbing back down. Now, when the wind blows, it feels like he's going to fall, so he proves his bravery by hanging on. Be like the Indian boy, I told myself. Hang on. Just then, the ghost reached all the way to the threshold of the closet, causing my skin to go full goosebump. As soon as it broke out from inside the closet to the outside, it was suddenly, but somehow smoothly back in the closet again, where it started to move forward all over again. This went on for what seemed like an hour. I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep with this going on. I thought to myself that I must either leave the room or prove to myself that it was just shadows, if I was ever going to get sleep at all. So I got up out of bed, trembling with unsure feet, and began to slowly walk towards the closet. The whole time I kept my eyes on it, and it did not stop its repeating motion. It was as if it was trying to get out of the closet, but it couldn't for some reason. I finally arrived at the open closet door, and the thing was right in front of me and still moving slowly, ever so slowly. A high-pitched tone rose up in my ears and I could hear my heart pounding inside my head. But I took that last step right into the closet, right into the dark, right into the Indian. A wave of goosebumps swept across my skin as thousands of little hairs stood on end. A cool sensation engulfed me and then slowly faded away until everything calmed down and I was left in there alone. The Indian was gone. I went back to bed and slept well that night. I had overcome the fear of that closet and those shadows. I don't know if the Indian was a ghost or not. He never tried to harm me if he was. Perhaps it just needed to be noticed. Perhaps he was stuck in between worlds. Perhaps it was an evil spirit simply trying to scare me. In any case, it was my coming-of-age test. At the top of the shadow of that tree, swaying back and forth in the wind, I was afraid, but I was also brave, and I became a man, a full-fledged part of the tribe. Case notes, file number 147. Wow, so this story had such an intriguing vibe. You're an excellent writer for setting the mood of a tale. Of course, if it was just shadows from the tree, it would be repeatable almost every night. I imagine you never saw this again, so I do believe it was an entity. Or of course, it is possible was a figment of an active imagination. From the way you write this, I think you were in a headspace where you wanted to prove yourself in your own mind as brave. Maybe your mind manifested such a real, disturbing challenge as a way for you to overcome it and be brave. You can't be brave without a source of fear to challenge yourselves against it. Either way, well done. The author responded to my comment, saying, "It's true that I never saw it again. I did take note on other nights that the clothes hanging in the closet could have looked like someone standing there, but they were all pushed over to the other side of the closet. It was one of those with two sliding doors, where only one can be open at a time. On that night and every night, the hanging clothes were always pushed over to the unopened side, so it couldn't have been the clothes. I have heard of optical illusion, where in the dark, an image can appear to be moving, and in doing so, it appears to repeat the same motion over and over. The only problem with that explanation is that I slept with those curtains open much of the time, and the closet door open all the time, and I never saw it before or since. Also, it's interesting that this happened in that room, as something else happened in there one night when my brother used to sleep in there with me. He had gotten up to go to the bathroom, and after he left the room, I heard someone dragging their feet on the carpet while they walked towards my bed from the door of the room. I hadn't heard him come back from the bathroom, but I figured he must have. But the sound was unmistakable. It was someone walking across the carpet without lifting their feet up off the carpet as they walked. When I got over to my bed, it felt like someone was hovering over my bed right above the blanket, which I had pulled over my head. I got scared and again was completely still and quiet. It had a malevolent vibe to it, whatever it was. A few minutes later, my brother opened the door and came back in. The sound of him opening the door was very noticeable, and it was very obvious that he had come back in. I sat up and looked around, and no one else was in the room besides us. I asked him if he had come in and then left again, and he said no. We did not have a dog, which might have made such a sound, I guess. We had cats, but they were not in our room and wouldn't have made the sound anyway. It seems like there was something there, trying to scare me for some reason. There was another occurrence at that house that maybe I'll share later on, because it was in another room. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and leave any thoughts you might have down below. I always like knowing what you guys think too.